Hello, friends and subscribers and people who have never heard of me before. Well, today I'm going to talk about reincarnation, brainwashing, and hypnosis. And it's a subject most people reject. So typically, the only people who like or comment or subscribe are people interested in those subjects. Now, I don't get a lot of views and I don't get a lot of likes because I'm a lone thinker. I think for myself. I've rewired my own brain, if you will, because it all goes hand in hand. The brainwashing. And if you're wondering what in the hell is going on in our world that's falling apart, I'll tell you what's going on. The brainwash is falling apart. The hypnotic stories are falling apart because they're built on a foundation of lies. And we've been living this cycle, if you will, of lies in a place where there is no such thing as time. And we are the essence of spirits. You see, we have no concept of time because it won't ever end. It's infinite, but it can go in a loop. And that reminds me of a boomerang sort of thing. Like a figure eight, going around and around, but we're going around and around in karmic cycles. And I won't get into karma, shit like that, because then that'll draw in a bunch of New Agers. And New Agers are like the same. They're full of fear. They don't like reality. They love fantasy. And I'm going to tell you basically what hypnosis is listening to a story and believing the story to be true, and then living your life as if it is true from whoever the storyteller was. So, for example, the scriptures are where we began time. That's where time began, with the scriptures, the year of our Lord. And this is the time that our brains got rewired, and we fell into a cycle of lies. Somebody wrote these scriptures, and the word, when you listen to a story, right? Maybe you can't read, so you're listening to men in capes, silk coats, telling you all about God, right? and what God expects of us, like we are children. And we are weak, but God is strong. That's the whole thing. Well, you walk into that story, you suddenly become weak, and somebody else becomes strong, and you begin to feed the messengers, or the messenger, like the clerks and the pastors and the rabbis and the priests and anybody who puts on a costume, basically, for you to see. Now, maybe they're wearing a cross or a cap to signal to you that these are authorities who speak for God because they can. So, and I don't know if these men are corrupt or not, neither do you. What I do know is if they believe, then they can manifest out of their belief systems. And that's what we're doing here. We're manifesting out of our belief systems. And they've been in a cycle for about 2025 years now, give or take, because they keep changing the calendar too. Like, for example, you think the new year starts in the middle of winter. Well, why would you think that? Why would you celebrate New Year in the middle of winter? Because it's the cycle. Everybody does. Your parents do, your grandparents do, it's in the history, but we do. Just shut up. We celebrate on January 1, the start of the calendar year. But what if the calendar year was a lie? You got a whole belief system circling around this new year that is artificial in the making. In fact, I believe there's about 3 months that are artificial in the timeline. So God knows what time or day it is, so don't ask me. Because we really have a new year when it shows up, and that's around April 1st. That's when the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees begin to bloom. And that's how we know in our intelligence that it's time to plant seeds. It is time to water our seeds, and that's the new year. But artificial intelligence was derived from the word. The word is entirely artificial because you can study it all you want. You can memorize every goddamn verse in there, but it will always be on the foundation of a God I don't know. Personally, I don't know. You may know him. You may relate to this God. he's an authority, you know. He looks after his children with an iron fist. And he threatens you. Yeah, you gonna do this? We're gonna punish you. So, yeah, they got this made up God who's gonna, well, first it started with Eve, right? The story goes, she tempted Adam. And you know what? We've been living with that story for 2025 years, maybe longer. I don't remember. But it's us, we are the same people, who fell for it back then. And here we are, 2025, waking up. That's a hypnosis thing. You're waking up. And anything that's been artificial is going to disappear. And it's already disappearing in in ways I can't even talk about here. It's too overwhelming to explain. But basically, people are waking up in a state of shock. They're shocked over the people they love. They're shocked over the work they're doing and they don't feel good about it. They're shocked about their leaders and the corruption and lies in media. Like, what kind of a world is this? And so people are looking around and going, maybe I better open up my senses and take a look around my surroundings. And that is the beginning of coming out of the brainwash. And it's been a recycled brainwash because your parents were brainwashed and their parents were it's just a slow drip. And each generation keeps going down, down, down. And you may not think so, but because you have more things than we did in the 1800s, you've got fancy cars and things like that, more money, but it's all artificial and created for your brain to consume, believe in, and you better believe in it because there's authorities out there who they can put you away for life if you don't, follow the program. And they can put you in prison here. They have laws and bylaws and made up laws to work for God, to punish you on behalf of us. You you do wrong, and the powers that be in their costumes who went to school and learned and fully believe in their authoritarianism, their titles, and their costumes because they get rewarded all the goddamn time. How can they not believe in themselves when they are the ones rewarded? They know not what they do because they are utterly, completely brainwashed and they don't use their own senses. I mean, these are the people capable of cutting open skin and muscle and tissue and soaking up blood and playing with your organs. Now, I'm sorry that you believe very firmly in this system, and I don't listen, do what you will. I'm not here to change your mind. Uh, I'm just here to say that it is artificial intelligence to think that you are a god to anyone other than yourself. But that's just how the people are raised, you know. They go to school and, are rewarded with graduation certifications, paper, pieces of paper. Well, paper isn't real. It's not it's, it's something that could get lost. Well, then, you know what? Let's talk about getting lost. They say that people go missing in the forests, that they're out on a hike or something, and they're just walking along, and suddenly they decide it's time to go back. And they turn around and they don't recognize their surroundings. They're lost and they get confused. And they may keep hiking. They may try to find north, south, east, and west. And they may do all sorts of things, but for some reason they're disoriented. It's because they were in a trance, a deeper trance than they are in their everyday life. Because when you go out on walks like that, you can get lost in thought, or no thought is better to say no thought, because that's what a trance is, no thought. It's, people that play music and they're just sitting there strumming along with their guitar or piano, playing with the music. They lose their thought and they feel their music, right? That's the artist. That's the true nature of an artist, is somebody who can bring up wonder and beauty from within themselves, and that's emotional intelligence. So you can get a lot of work done in trance. People go into trance using meditation, but that's fucking uncomfortable. They twist themselves up into these pretzels and bow their head, and I don't know what, they look like a genie or something. It's all for show. It's not for the feeling, it's for the rule and the ritual. And they go through all these rituals. It's like way back when the scriptures started. They gotta kiss doorways and wash their hands in a certain direction. before they can eat the food. And they can't eat certain food. It's forbidden. So they invented certain meats. I mean, some of them can eat pork, some of them can't. Some of them can eat beef, some of them won't. They worship cows. It depends on their belief and their leader and who has control over the majority of the minds. And the people that get the control over the majority of the minds are typically your most charming. And I think the word charming comes from the word chameleon because, I find every psychopath out there and I end up adoring them and everything about them, only to find out that they have secret intentions and imagination that I can't fathom. I don't think like them. And I feel the reason I don't think like a lot of people is because, well, I was traumatized as a child. Uh, I didn't know where the boogeyman would come from. I just didn't trust. You couldn't trust anybody because anybody, including your own mother, could be your worst enemy working against you. So I'm very aware of my surroundings. So that's one way I've been able to, keep my senses and be aware of my surroundings, which is why I think after Trevor passed away, I was very aware of the change in my environment. I had electrical things going on, lamps and ghostly activity, for lack of a better word, was going on. And, I was raised a Christian, and this was when I was brainwashed. And I just, I was confused. This is what happens when you're experiencing something for yourself, right? But it goes against the rules. And it definitely goes against the rules to believe spirits are around you. Because according to the scriptures and everything, there's a heaven and a hell, and you only get one life. And I don't know what the rest of the story is, and neither do you. But apparently you're all cuddled up with God and Jesus. Doing what? I don't know. But the point is, we have been in a trap for a very long time in this cycle. And and you are from the biblical times. You are from the Queen and King James era, and you are from the past, here again now in the future. And you're going to be born into the future. And who is going to be your family? It's going to be your offspring. It is definitely going to be your offspring. You're going to have to wait until one of them is ready to have you, but there is no time in our realm. And it could be a grandparent or great grandparent down the road, but whatever you are going to be back into your thread of life. Now, you may ask, well, what if we don't have kids? Yeah, you do. Um, you don't know that within our family thread, our extended families, your cousins and siblings. And have you ever felt really close to a particular cousin or a sibling or something like that? Well, these are all the same people you've been reincarnating with all the time. And there are people that you like and people you distrust emotionally. You don't know why. You just don't want to be with them. And then it, they go works the other way too, where you absolutely adore these people. Like I've got a cousin I totally adored. She turned into a total psychopath, which is the opposite of an empath. And the empath are the ones who can feel and see and sense um, the moods and telepathy of others. Like, their intentions become obvious after a while. And no matter how charming they look, you're going to have to go into your own self as the world turns, as the AI falls down, and brick by brick, you begin to lose touch with the trail you were on in a trance. It's okay. You'll be okay. You're a very intelligent being, and you can rely on your higher self. Inside of you, you got the light. And the thing is, though, you don't know about it. You have no idea. You can tap into your magic at any time and manifest a completely new world. But it's going to take the willingness to release the old world, the artificial world, the one where there are rules to live by and people to please before yourself. That's just stupid. Running around the world, keeping everybody safe while staying in a prison is pretty remarkably dumb, in all honesty. But how do you know when you're a robot and you can read the policies, you can hear the authority in the voices of the bosses, and the system is set up to create the bosses and the slaves. So both are brainwashed to believe that what they're doing is the right thing. But they're in a hypnotic trance. And now, as people are beginning to emerge out of this trance, they're not getting the love or the kudos that they typically get. They're people are lashing out at them. Well, what do you mean? I'm a nurse. I'm a doctor. I'm a social worker. I'm a judge. But these titles and costumes are starting to fall off. Like, literally and emotionally, they're falling off. Yeah. So, what I'm just going to do is let my landlord go by. Yeah, he doesn't understand a word of English, and I don't understand a word of French. But I'm going to tell you something. It doesn't matter. I've been here 7 years now, and he's a good man, all in all. He's an asshole, a narcissist, but I can work around that. I have to, right? And because I'm not going to change anybody. That I know. I'm not going to sit around thinking I can change anybody. I'm not going to change my siblings' minds. I'm not going to change my grandchildren's minds. I'm not changing anybody's mind. I can only program myself or deprogram, and that's hard for me because I'm very sensitive and I have a lot of feelings and I cry a lot because I'm emotionally attached. You know what I mean? Like I have love in me. And what's going on outside of me isn't love. It's artificial. And so maybe uh, it will happen sooner than later. I'm hoping this year, and I'm hoping the next couple of weeks, actually, because that's how I feel. I feel my own son's death in 2003 brought the light to me. I mean, I entered new dimensions and new realms that I did not know existed, and certainly nobody told me about them. I experienced them. And to deny my own reality, it was like I've just wasted 22 years here. Why would I deny what I feel and sense for myself? And the only reason why I would is if I'm brainwashed to fear myself and my own thoughts for this God, right? Doesn't believe in it, thinks it's all demonic what I'm talking about, whether it's the hypnosis or whatever, it's always demonic. But what I've learned is, and how I cope now, is kind of a game, because I am in the game, and I know what's going on around me. Is I let people live, right? First and foremost, I'm not going to interfere in anyone's life or put them down or judge them because I know what happened to us. And I love everybody and I'm sincere about that. So I'm not. But I do have to protect myself. I'm an easy target because of my empathy, my ability to feel for you. Um, I don't want you to suffer. And there are many people who glom onto that and use that to suck the life out of me, play games with me and mock me, if you will, because they can't stand the truth that they're living in an artificial world, creating artificial judgments against people when they're really only projecting from within themselves. So if you're caught in that prison where you feel offended a lot and life isn't working out for you the way you think it oughta, I think maybe you're ready to hear this. You need an open mind, though. And it really hasn't been loud, but I feel it's coming. That people are just taking their minds and opening them up anyway, and allowing new thoughts to drift through, and just sit and wonder for a minute. Instead of brushing it off as all hocus pocus, as my mother used to do, then just put aside your judgment, put aside that thought, and allow for a new thought, and maybe even unpopular thoughts. You can do that. You can allow yourself to expand. And when you do that, more information will come to your human senses, and you'll begin to feel things for yourself. Like today, when I see a man in a costume explaining how the world works to me, I just stand there in awe, looking at them with my mouth gaped open, my eyebrows are crunched up, and I look at these men and go, who the fuck do you think you are? And really, that's what anybody who thinks they are more intelligent than the next spirit over have a lot to learn. And sadly, what they do is they end up really pissing off their kids more than anybody, because they're controlling, right? And they want to control the easiest people is their wife and kids. So they set about doing that, and they've been given permission through the textbooks and the way we operate. He's the authority, and the family falls in line with that, never tapping into her intelligence. Never, in fact, more like burning her at the stake for her intuition. They call her a witch. They called her all sorts of names. Until she just finally, this last century, just shut off her brain with chemistry. So she doesn't have that. And she's sort of turning alpha. And she likes going to school now. And she likes wearing those costumes too. And who's raising the children? Well, they're in front of Bugs Bunny or Dora or SpongeBob, Batman, and Robin, or maybe they're at some group function in daycare talking about God knows what and doing. You don't know what. You're too busy, Mom. And you believe in yourself. You believe that you're doing the right thing, going to work. And maybe you're out jogging too, because you should be lean like a man and never have any body fat. No, no, not here. And no hips. Nope, nope, nope. So you run, 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 Bambi, run. And make sure you look like a man. And be hard in the body, in the muscle. And show your kids how to live like that. And they won't want to. And they'll grow up to be rebellious and they'll smoke pot behind the school and drink beer somewhere else. And, they're going to sneak it because they don't like to be around authorities like that, controlling people, miserable people. But then those kids and they're all going to be recycled back, right? Eventually, the grandkids are going to raise those parents. And by the time the loop comes around, maybe those kids are, gay. I don't know. I just don't know. You don't know. They don't want family anymore. Family is stupid. It's time to break up family, they say. That's what my children say. No, we don't need you, Grandma. No, you offended me, and for that, you cannot get to know your great-grandchild Tommy here. So I am currently being punished for, I don't know why, I really honestly don't know. I know she was molested by a guy I introduced her to, but I also sent him to prison. And he ended up being the only one that would save me from the dumpster, which is where I was heading to live. And she doesn't know any of that. She only knows what's in her brain. And she's offended that even though I sent him to jail, uh, uh, I accepted his help. Well, by the time he was in jail for 2 years, I had nobody. And I was sick with lung cancer and COPD and pneumonia. And I needed somebody in the next room. He was in the guest room. I was dying. And beings of light came through my room and filled my room. I didn't go anywhere. It wasn't an alien ship or anything. But I thought they were very alien to me. But they downloaded the whole truth as I just explained it to you. And they told me about the lies and the corruption I personally was living with within my own family. I mean, it's a goddamn circus. What people lie about. You goddamn all of you. You don't tell people how you really feel. You think you should be kind. And you never bring up what needs to be brought up. You don't face anything. You hide. You sneak. And you're so easily offended and full of fear that you won't allow love. You're not allowing love. When you hide your feelings and you pretend things don't matter, or you pretend you're an authority or the boss over somebody else's life, then you're not committed to family or humanity. You're artificial entirely, and you're likely going to disappear. You can't be seen. You need love to be touched by the light. But love is in short supply, and so are mothers, because once we cross over, we are aware. We know damn well what we've done. And that's why we keep insisting on coming back. We've got to make this right. We're the only ones who can make it right. And we know it on the other side, that we are responsible. It's not some other father and son and ghost. It's us. We are the spirit for which we seek. And as long as we're believing in the lies that we're told, and we walk into stories that we just accept without questioning, well, you can count on being recycled into your own family thread. And if you do anything at all, raise the kids right. I mean, even though you're utterly brainwashed, admit it. And tell the kids you're turning the TV off now, and they don't have to go to school. They can learn at home. And make them do things for themselves, like chores and gardening and helping around the house, Christ's sakes. And the next time you make a meal, Mom, you don't accept this thank you God stuff. That's all neuro-linguistic programming to demean mother and give it all away to your invisible God that wants your thanks and your gratitude too, by the way, if you don't mind. And you bow this way, and you pray this way, and you light this candle, and you sit this way, and then I'll be happy with you. Well, that's the God you want, that's the God you get. But as that God falls apart, because he can't keep up the act forever, eventually they all fall down, get reborn into their family thread. They have to be reborn in their family thread. I don't know exactly. I don't pretend to know everything. But I do really, but I don't know that. There's a lot I don't have access to. But I do know for a fact that my dad was reborn into my granddaughter. And there were lots of signs it was going to happen before he even died. When my granddaughter was around my dad, she adored him. Like unconsciously, she didn't like people, and she didn't like her picture being taken. She had a very hard traumatic first few years when we didn't even know she existed. So the mother didn't tell us. So we found out when she was turning 3, around the time Trevor was dying. And died. He died June 28th, and I got to know her Easter of 2003. Well, she gave birth. She's going to be 25 on July 11th, which is another symbolic number. And she gave birth to a little baby boy named Tommy. They named him Tommy. Now, she's been with this guy for about 4 years, and his name is Radcatcher. Tyler Radcatcher. It's so funny, because he is a good catch. I mean, he's got tattoos and shit, and I'm sure he drinks beer and whatnot. But yeah, he does, because they live on a ranch, on a horse farm, actually, in BC, with her maternal step-parent. And so she's had a pretty good life amongst horses. And then she met Tyler. Well, they've been together a long time. And well, first of all, I'll tell you that I walked to the store yesterday. This was the day before, a few days ago. And just my spirit told me to buy a can of beer to cheers my dad on. I thought, why would I buy? I don't drink beer. I thought, oh, a beer won't hurt. And if I don't drink it, I can put it in my gravy. I thought, what kind of beer will I get? I got a Pilsner Old Style beer. I thought, I'm going to get a Pilsner, just one can. Not a whole half a sack. Just one can of Pilsner Old Style beer. I put that in my bag amongst the milk and bananas and came home. Now, and then later on, I had a cheers to my dad. Dear Dad, here's to you. Well, blow my mind away if I didn't the next day see that my granddaughter's man, her fiance actually, she got a ring, was holding the baby on his lap. They were on an AVT or something, and they were paused there with the baby on Tyler's lap. Oh, he's so adorable too, looks just like Trevor, just a little blonde baldy with fuzzball. Anyway, Tyler was giving the baby a sip of beer. And guess what kind of beer it was? Old Style Pilsner. And that's my dad's favorite kind. And I had a sneaky feeling that she would give birth. I have a photo of her sitting on his lap with a great big smile and her thumb pointed up. And she just, since she was under 3, like a baby, she just had her thumb up. It's so obvious. And my dad's sitting there looking at the camera with a very pleased grin. And they're so happy together. And it was after that moment that I realized, well, it was after then that I knew about reincarnation and whatnot. I didn't know about it back then when the photo was being taken. So, sorry, just had a moment there, neighbors. I am English in Quebec. They don't understand me, but I think they think I'm pretty safe after 7 years. Anyway, hypnosis and brainwashing go hand in hand. When you are born, the cycle is already here. But I'm telling you now, you're an adult. If you're over 18, you're responsible for your life and where you're going to go and what you're going to do with it. And you can whine and cry all you want, but you have power in you, a light that you can light up by just, believing in yourself, in your own senses, what you personally experience. I'm telling you, if you're going along with the word of others, you don't know the harm you may be causing others like me. You see, the majority of my family are confused because they're under hypnosis. They believe in a story of a couple of storytellers who have good reason to lie and cheat and twist the word. You see, you wonder, well, why would people do that? People are learning how to be greedy little pigs on TV. They're learning how to lie about their feelings. Hello, Leno. They're lying about their feelings. When people offend them, they turn their back on them and they tell somebody else, but they don't tell the person who offended them. But they never talk to them again. It's so goddamn retarded. And it's artificial intelligence that's doing it, that's leading our brains. It's the televisions, guys. It's violent games, like video games. You wouldn't believe how many grandparents died after Dungeons and Dragons came out. Like, boys are acting out their fantasies. This is what they do. This is what we do. You can't blame the boys. They're acting out the fantasies they're handed. And if we're going to hand them images and graven images of Dungeons and Dragons and murder plots and ways to get away with shit to harm people, if that's how we want our brains to be wired, then keep letting the kids run loose with these hideous devices. Keep letting them be raised on television images where parents aren't always there to listen to what their children are being told. That if those poor little kids believe and live out their lives believing in what they're told from television or anywhere else, anybody else, any groomer, any babysitter, anyone, if they are allowed to believe in others over themselves, we have set them up to be sex slaves and work slaves or whatever. But they won't know it, and we won't know what we've done. We put our children into a trance when we scare them with our authority. And if I have any message at all today, is please drop your authority today. Save your goddamn souls. And stop thinking you are here to control anyone. Now, you may be here as an extra, a supporting actor, but that means a supporting actor. There is no one in charge of anyone else here. And if you are giving up your right to life your way, you're sitting there whining and crying about how horrible your life is, and you're not picking up the reins, and you're over 18, you are brainwashed. And it may feel like it's just procrastination or something, but you'll never get the energy to do your life your way. And I happen to know that we all come with a plan. We do. My story was mapped out long before I was born. I know who my supporting actors are, and I know they are all unconscious. But I knew who they were, and I needed them throughout my life at one point or another. But then there came the time when I had to be isolated to sort out my brain, really. After the beings of light downloaded me with, like, I was in a state of shock and horror and PTSD, because there's no other word. I was confused. But my son was there, my child, and that is how I know it was not a hallucination or a government MK Ultra thing. It was real, because immediately after the lights were finished, my son appeared, and he gave me a feeling straight daggered into my heart. I can still feel it today. And nobody can take away what I felt, you know? So the difference between artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence is hypnosis. And you'll have to figure it out. What you believe in, what you want to let go of, what you should let go of, and what you need to bring back into your fold in order to end your trap of coming back in the opposite, in the karmic cycle. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to hang up, lots of neighbors coming by now. If you like my video, hit the subscribe, and I may do more. I just like to talk from time to time. I know that I'm in the minority, and I know I'm a lone wolf, but I also know people are interested, and they are becoming more aware of the artificialness and the horribleness of being fake, and the wish to return to reality, because I know you want that. And I know that when we are real, we're way better people.